Hi there, landlords. This is Nicole, your landlord advocate. And today I want to talk to you about how to recover your money from a tenant. Now, tenants by far advocate more for their rights than the majority of landlords. This really has to change. We really need to become more informed. We need to become more proactive, and we need to advocate and go about enforcing our rights so that it changes the system. So, to recover your money from a tenant, you really need to be able to have a plan where you are informed before you actually get the tenant into the tenancy. And this is by far one of the knowledge base that I lacked because I didn't know any better until I became a very, very informed landlord. So, to prepare yourself before tenancies start, you really have to do due diligence in the kinds of people that you get in your property and or you get in your rental. And so you have to do the correct homework before you get these people in your rental. So if you get someone and you have really done due diligence, you're going to search for them on the court registry to see if they've had a public record on the court registry, whether it's an eviction and or monetary order. You're going to do things like that. You're going to ask them for their previous pay stubs, like 3 months and or 6 months worth of previous pay stubs. You're going to ask them for a void check and or blank check because you want to prepare yourself just in case anything happens along the way. And you have to garnish their bank account through having a monetary order that you're going to be enforcing. To be able to prepare yourself with those key things and more is going to be so important in case the tenant, for example, owes you money for the rent. You have to get a monetary order. Then, of course, you're going to serve it. And most tenants, they don't take you seriously if you're not operating your tenancy like a business in the first place. And I think this is one of the places where landlords need to strengthen how they are with their tenancies is you need to become a professional that operates your tenancy like a business. And when you are operating like a business, you're not just going to be a mom and pop store that just lets anything slide. You're really going to do due diligence. So if you begin to prepare along the way before you even put this person into a tenancy agreement, it's going to be so much better for you because if then they breach the tenancy and then they owe you money for unpaid rent and or damages, you already have certain information in place that you can go back to in order to recover your money. So it really starts where you are being proactive, you're doing your due diligence, and you're taking the necessary steps as a landlord to protect your business, to protect your investment. No one can get a monetary order without going through the RTB, so that's a given. So whether it's a tenant that wants money from you and or you wanting money from a tenant, you have to get a monetary order. The monetary order could be unpaid rent or it could be for damages. And usually it's about those two things. Once you get a monetary order, if you didn't take the steps, if you weren't proactive before that, it's going to be very, very difficult for you. So here's what I mean. It could be that the tenant just leaves, they up and leave, and you don't have a forwarding address. When tenants really want to run away, they really don't want to pay you, they'll do whatever it takes. And so a lot of landlords are like, okay, I have the monetary order. Now what? Like, what do I do with this monetary order? I can't find the tenant. Well, the answer is that you operate a business and you have to do your due diligence. And you'll need to do things like hire a skip tracer. So if you go online and you search things like Skip Tracer BC, and then of course you're going to go through these companies. You're going to make sure you're doing your due diligence by researching the company correctly. And usually, from what I've heard, the fees are between 350 and 400. Now, a lot of landlords are going to be like, well, I don't think I want to go through this whole process of having to hire a skip tracer, but I'm just going to keep complaining about bad tenants. You don't get to have your cake and eat it too like that. You have to take full accountability for your tenancy. And a part of that is the way that you go about holding the tenants accountable when they are not paying you for your rent, and or if then you have a lot of damages that you need to recover the cost of these damages. So landlords, I just want to tell you, because I'm a landlord myself, we don't get to keep complaining if we're not going to be equally about enforcing our rights. It just doesn't work where you just keep complaining about the tenant and what the tenant is doing and how bad the tenant is treating you and how horrible the arbitrators are. We don't want to hear that anymore. We don't want to hear you complaining about the system and the arbitrators and the RTB and how unfair they are, and just go on and on and on when you are not educated, when you are not informed, when you're not actually doing your due diligence. And I remember I was there before, a totally uninformed landlord, and I just resorted to blaming the system and complained about the system until I began to become very, very empowered, very knowledgeable, and very informed. And I can tell you right now that when you have a habit of complaining and lacking knowledge about the act and staying uninformed, and then you go into a hearing, more than likely, especially for certain things, it's not going to be in your favor. Because if you're uninformed, you won't know how to prepare. You won't know how to present your case properly. You might just go in with your grievances to the arbitrator, and they're looking for real data. They're looking for real evidence and real information. So protect yourself before you get the tenant into your property. And it's really important that you're about protecting yourself before you get this tenant. And then now after after you get the tenant in, what you want to do is that you want to be about enforcing your rights along the way. You want to be about how you're documenting this tenancy and so on. So when you have some core info and data and details, like if you know that there are 4 things that the courts are requiring, you're going to ensure that you have and or you prepare yourself with as much info as possible should you be in a position that you need to actually get your money back from the tenant. Okay, so let's go through now that you have a monetary order. What do you do next? Well, first, you need to serve a demand letter to the tenant, demanding that they pay you your money within a certain time frame. Second, if they don't pay you, then of course you're going to have to check with the RTB. And usually tenants and or if it's on your side, there's about 15 days that they have for the dispute. Now, once the dispute window is closed and you've called RTB to ensure that there are no disputes on this monetary order, then the next step is to go to the small claims court. A lot of landlords, they just don't want that inconvenience. They don't want to be bothered, but they want to keep complaining about the system and why the system isn't working for them. So the steps around taking it out of your time to go to the small claims court, paying around 80, I think it's about 80 bucks to file that monetary order, is going to be about how you are enforcing your rights. And as a matter of fact, what happens with that is that it's going to become public record so that it's going to help another landlord, which means that this tenant is not going to be able to get away with it. If landlords are more educated, they begin to search the court registry. They see that it's public record. They're like, oh, wow, this person owes that landlord, that much money. They're not going to be a good tenant. So if you file it with a small claims court, then you're going to have 4 options in terms of how you're going to recover your money. Number one, you can get them to attend a payment hearing. A lot of landlords are going to be like, well, I don't know where they are. Okay, well, hire a skip tracer. Find them. Okay, if you don't know where they are, find them. Find a way to find them. This is a business. It's about you being a professional. It's about you ensuring that you're recovering your losses from your business. And so therefore, find them. So payment hearing is one. The second one is that you can garnish their bank account. And this is why, again, you can get a void check up front before they start the tenancy. You can let them know, just a void check, just for the purpose of having, info, just in case, e-transfer doesn't work, and just in case, we need to, get money for the rent or whatever. You can just tell them something around that. Okay. Now you need to get a blank and or void check, and there's a PDF. Usually it's in all of the back end of the apps for your banking or the tenant's banking. So you need to get that. Okay. Just in case you need to recover your money through garnishing their bank account. You need a place of employment, just in case you need to recover your money from garnishing their wages with their employer. So this is where, if you have 3 pay stubs and or 5 or 6 pay stubs, then of course you'll know where they work. And I saw someone, say something like, well, people can get unemployed. That's an exception. Okay. Now let's just say that they are unemployed, but now they're collecting unemployment. Well, you have their bank account. You see how you're backing yourself up, and you have some form of security with that. And the fourth is to put a lien on an asset. So you have 4 ways to recover your money. And you have multiple years to recover your money, but a lot of landlords are not enforcing their rights at the court level, and they're allowing the tenant to run the show. Then they're complaining that the system isn't fair. When the system gives us tools as landlords, we have to use those tools, and we have to ensure that we're using those tools correctly. So sometimes it might take some time to go through the system. For example, it might take some time to get a monetary order. It might take some time to serve the demand. It might take some time for you to go through the steps. But once you have the tools in your hands, if you're just going to put it down on your desk like it's a piece of paper, but you're not going to enforce the actual monetary order, then what's going to happen is that you're just really becoming a part of the problem. So when you get the tools in your hands, you must enforce it. And if you enforce, for example, an order of possession, and then you have to get a bailiff, it's going to show up in the court registry. If you enforce a monetary order, it's going to show up in the court registry. It's going to hold the tenant accountable. The more landlords enforce our rights, the more we stand up for our rights, the more we are informed, the more we are proactive, and the more we are professional and operate our tenancies like a business, because that's what it is, the better it's going to be for helping to have some leeway around how we can have a voice to be able to affect change when it comes to the law and the Tenancy Act. So I hope this has been helpful for you. If you have any questions about monetary orders, and especially if it's on your side where you're being served a monetary order, like a lot of the tenants, they will go all the way. They will not give up. So some tenants, like if they get a monetary order of 30,000, do you think that they're just going to sit around and do nothing with it? The tenants are determined to ensure that they're enforcing their rights. And the landlords also need to ensure that we are just as determined to enforce our rights and ensure that we send a very, very strong message to tenants that we are going to be about enforcing our rights. So the more tenants are aware that should you screw a landlord over, the landlord is going to take you to court. The landlord is going to go all the way, and the landlord is going to ensure that you understand that you shouldn't have done that. So if the tenants are educated through our actions of enforcing our rights, then it's going to actually act as a very, very big change when it comes to how landlords are perceived. So thank you so much for watching. Until next time, talk again real soon.